He's struggling. I think Jordan just needs a hug from a real man. Jordan, come give me a hug. I'll give you an internet hug. Give me an internet hug. All right. Well, we got a hunt. Dude, this is crazy. All right. Listen, this one's short. We're going to watch it. You guys gave me like a 50-50 split. We got 51% of you said watch this. 49% of you said don't watch it. That's how I feel internally. So, but let's watch it because I am like kind of interested. It's just that like Jordan Peterson's just been like spiraling, a bit towards the right too much. Like I had mentioned before, I think that Peterson's always been like more of like a right-leaning centrist. I would say right-leaning moderate. Centrist is such a dirty word now, isn't it? I do truly feel like if I had to pinpoint like the beginning of the end for Jordan Peterson, it was when Ethan decided to remove all Jordan's videos from his channel and like publicly say, I don't like this guy. He's a bad person. And it's not Ethan Klein's responsibility to like, talk to people and like blah, 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 you know what I mean? And like radicalize them. But I feel like if Ethan had, instead of removing the videos, had just invited Jordan on to have a conversation and maybe push back against him a little bit on some of his stuff, that we wouldn't see this Jordan Peterson that we see now, who seems to be spiraling out of control.
Tylee tipped $4.20.
420.
I've been using ad blocker.
Okay.
Thought it was time to pay my dues.
Well,
much love, Papa. Keep up the content. Less than 3.
Thank you very much. I personally just use the YouTube Premium. It's $12 a month. So, all right, let's do this.
I'll ask you just quickly, the film director Olivia Wilde has a new movie out, which she says is based on you, this insane man, this pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community. Incel being these weirdo loner men.
I don't like that. I think that when it comes to when it comes to like political stuff, I'm not a huge Jordan Peterson fan, but the guy is really intelligent. Like when it comes to like his field of expertise, he's very stimulating. I remember I have ADHD and I watched a video where he explored like the diagnosis of ADHD and how we might be overprescribing it because young men aren't able to like get out some of their physical energy and exertion. And I was like, you know what, maybe that's partly of me. I mean, I don't know if I was able to really get out. We have this video game era. He's very stimulating when you have like when you listen to him within his own field of expertise. Personally, I think when it comes to his politics, he's a little out there. But like no progressive is like, hey, I'll chat with you, Jordan Peterson, reasonably, I don't think that I don't know. I mean, maybe some incels gravitate towards him, but like he's really not this pseudo-intellectual. I think that's dishonest. Well, I think that's like just disingenuous to say that he's a pseudo-intellectual. He's a very intelligent guy,
who are despicable in many ways. Is that you? Are you the intellectual hero to these people?
Sure. Why not? People have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. What a terrible thing to do that is.
He's crying. You know what one of the problems I think is that because Jordan does speak to like, I guess you'd say like disenfranchised, I'll use young men. I think that the problem is that nowadays I can't figure out a single person to pinpoint that when they speak about a man's issue, it's not in a way that seems to put down a woman, and vice versa. I haven't really seen any like large content creators that are like, hey, here's women's issues, but men aren't bad, or here's men's issues, but women aren't bad. It seems to be like somebody you have to pick a side. You can't have a nuanced sake of understanding that there are women's issues and then there are men's issues and that they intertwine in different capacities. Like I would say, like women's issues are like it's difficult for them to go outside at night, things like that. There can be times where they may be steered away from a career direction because it's not considered a woman's job. When it comes to men, I would say a big issue like the men struggle with is that there's more pressure in society for men to succeed. And there's more women on welfare services. Men tend to be expected to provide more than women are. Obviously, women are expected to work now more, but and so it creates this shift. And I don't think a lot of it is exacerbated, especially for men's issues, by jobs going away and wages getting driven down. And technology has a lot to do with that, which I think technology is great. But we're not really addressing these fundamental class issues that have a really negative impact. And so on especially men and women, but especially, men who are looking for jobs. And, nobody ever talks about them nobody ever talks about it like that. You know what I mean? It's always just like men or women, you know what I mean? And I think that with now the narrative being very women empowerment heavy, which I think is a good thing. When a man comes forward and says, "Hey, I have an issue as a man," most people will just brush them on back. Well, you created the patriarchy as a man. When it's like, then a man I didn't create, you didn't, nobody created the patriarchy. Nobody created none of us that live today created a male dominated society. We simply grew up into it. And so a lot of times people will just say like, oh, patriarchy, you can't have your own struggles as a man because society is male dominated, which is generally true. I would say it's more equal than it's ever been, but it's like, okay, but I'm still living in the system. You know what I mean? There seems to be a lot of like kind of brushing off men's issues, which I think is, I mean, like not for nothing, but like what's society telling us? Hey, men, it's toxic masculinity to keep your emotions inside and not express them in a reasonable way. And then some men come forward and say like, hey, I'm having an issue. And then society goes, fuck you. And it's not women. It's not women that are doing it. It's not men who are doing it. It tends to be annoying online losers who do it. Terminally online people who will weaponize feminism to be disparaging of men, because those people, and I'm not saying all feminists, but these virtue signaling feminists aren't actually struggling in society and don't understand empathy. They're just using it as a weapon to try to put people down, which is what a lot of people do nowadays. Some people will ride a narrative, like some people will ride BLM genuinely, and some people will ride it in a way to be hateful, you know? So, yeah.
I thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice.
Damn, he's really crying.
It's making you emotional. Talk about
Well, God, you know.
I'm sorry.
It's very difficult to understand how demoralized people are. And certainly many young men are in that category. And you get these casual insults, these incels. What does it mean? It's like, well, these men, they don't know how to make themselves attractive to women who are very picky, and good for them. Women, like, be picky. That's your gift, man.
Listen, men can be picky too.
Demand high standards from your men. Fair enough. But
you should, and as a man, you should demand high standards from your woman too.
All these men who are alienated, it's like they're lonesome and they don't know what to do, and everyone piles abuse on them.
You've been so controlled today, and yet in that brief moment, you got very emotional. Why?
Because he loves men. He loves young boys. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke.
It's really something to see constantly how many people are dying for lack of an encouraging word.
Seems a little intense. I don't know if I...
And how easy it is to provide that if you're careful. You know, give credit where credit is due. And to say, you're a net force for good if you want to be.
Well,
do you believe you're a net force for good?
Net, yes. In all the details, probably not. You know, no one's perfect. So
that's fair.
People make their mistakes as they stumble uphill.
That's true.
Jordan's been a fascinating interview. Thank you very much.
I wish, I truly wish I could just sit down and ask him why he got so upset. Because as much as people may not like Jordan, he's a genuine guy. I wonder, what was his experience? Like, what was he? Why did he cry? Like, what was the emotion what makes him identify? Because I like to think that I advocate for men and women's issues, you know, when we talk about these types of topics. But why did he get so upset? Because I don't think that he's not somebody who cries for attention. So like, what is the experience he attaches to what he was saying there? I truly wonder.
But it's so funny that we live in a world where every feminist and their girlfriends are talking about men do this, men need to show more emotion. Dude starts crying about how sad and lonely men are, and women are like, you fucking loser. See? This is what I've always known to be true since I was a young man. All this.
Telling people that Jordan Peterson's help as you become a man is possibly one of the most embarrassing cell phones you could. The reason the left hates Jordan Peterson is he's helping a generation of lost boys become men. Strong men look after themselves, their families, and their community. They are not reliable on the state. It's incredibly damaging to the status agenda. Okay.
Let's talk about feminists are for young men. It's lies.
Man, this guy loves crying. Looks at his mood immediately. Turns when Morgan describes himself as a weird alone man. Yeah, it is true. I mean, like, this doesn't have a whole lot of I could watch clips of Jordan Peterson crying all day. Oh, I guess I don't know what this one has, or how popular that is. This is Twitter, man. People are such pieces of shit. Like, not for nothing, but like this is something that we have to really recognize, is that like Twitter is a really good place to go to push a narrative and then push counter narrative. So like anybody could say anything, and you could find a collective of people who are going to be like super pieces of shit about it, because it's Twitter. Like if I go into the real world and I show people a Jordan Peterson video, they're going to be like, yeah, that's sad, man, and they're not going to really care too much, right? But like on Twitter, of course you're gonna be able to find people who are like, "Ha, Jordan Peterson." You know what I mean? I don't know. There are like a lot of toxic people online that express this shit, but yeah, Twitter's a real piece of fucking shit.
I swear to God.
It's a cap.
I swear to God.
Why would you need men's rights activists? You guys are seeing it right now.
I swear to God, that shit about...
The only thing that keeps me going every day is knowing that Jordan Peterson is going to put out another strange video of him crying about a weird verse in the Bible or about how young men are oppressed. I will say one thing, though. Jordan Peterson cries a lot. So, listen, I think you should be able to express your emotions. Personally, I think it's perfectly okay for men to cry. I also think that maybe sometimes you should try not to cry too much. You know, I've gotten upset, and I just feel like I see Jordan Peterson crying a little bit every other week. Maybe, hey, I'm not trying to be rude. I just think that maybe he needs like a personal relationship to help him push through some of this stuff. I think he's a genuine guy, but I do think he's crying a little bit much.
Wanting to be more vulnerable and seeing feelings. I swear to God.
If I had to choose between food and water and videos of Jordan Peterson crying, I'd probably starve.
God.
That's kind of funny, though. That one's kind of funny. Come on.
Y'all don't really want it.
No.
Y'all don't really want it.
Jordan Peterson crying makes my day, okay.
Because time to time, whenever that happens,
he's clearly going through something, but it is a little. Some of the jokes are kind of funny. Like, come on. Some of these jokes are a little funny.
Y'all weaponize that bitch. Yeah.
Some of them are funny, bro.
Y'all weaponize that bitch. Sorry, keep on going.
So what are your thoughts?
Is he gonna cry?
In order to understand certain things, you have to be able to listen. So a lot of things coming to mind, and I don't really know what to understand. I don't really know where to begin. But I'm gonna say this: you have to be able to understand, and you have to be able to listen, which is not what we're doing right now. And I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about society in general. It's funny whenever we ask and we talk about. We always talk about tolerance. We always talk about tolerance, and people need to be tolerant. We need to be tolerant. But the people that are talking to the people that they deem not tolerant are not being tolerant themselves. So you're becoming the thing that you're pointing your finger at.
I understand what you're saying, but like there is kind of like almost a paradox with it. I forget what it's called, but like if you're too tolerant to intolerance, then your tolerance becomes intolerance almost. I'm not saying that Jordan is this massively intolerant guy that you shouldn't tolerate. I'm just saying like fundamentally, like if you tolerate like, you know, Hitler, that's you're kind of just promoting intolerance at that point. You know what I mean? I think one of the problems too is that Jordan Peterson, when it comes to some of his rhetoric, especially when it comes to like trans stuff, is what you'd consider him pretty transphobic. And a lot of people are like, I don't care about this guy who doesn't seem to care about trans people. Right? That would be either tolerance paradox. Is that what it's called? Tolerance paradox? That would be a lot of people's like, yeah, I don't give a shit about this guy. He says X, Y, and Z. Because I've seen him talk about trans stuff. I don't remember the specifics, but it was like a little bit out there. I would love to talk to Jordan Peterson. That would be phenomenal. And just like push him on all this stuff, because it would probably be a really good stimulating conversation. But yeah,
without even you noticing, you got to be tolerant. I can't tolerate that. You should be. Why does he even have a platform? So if I want to tackle some shit that I don't understand, that's wrong, we need to have a discussion about it to understand where it's from. Maybe there's something in there. I don't know. Maybe there's something in there, something that we're missing. Whenever we talk about burning the witch.
That's an interesting point. Somebody said, I don't think it's a man thing. If a woman was crying in every single interview they had, or not every single, but I understand what you're saying, they would also talk shit. I do truly wonder, this is just something for you guys to consider, for me to consider, is like if it was a woman crying about feminism issues and about disenfranchised women, I wonder if Abba and Preach would have had the same energy, or if they would have kind of giggled at him or at her. I just don't know. But okay. Oh, is Destiny talking to Jordan Peterson tomorrow or Saturday? Well, tomorrow is Saturday. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll watch that.
You know the era where we used to burn the witch? That era never really stopped.
That was a base.
The type of witch we was burning changed.
Yeah, we started burning men. That's the problem. We should have just kept burning women. It would have been totally good.
So see him cry like that, I can understand, because it's like you really, those people that hurt you, you really want to hurt them. So you try to compare them to the worst thing possible just to get at them. You couldn't get at them intellectually, so you're going to get at them with name calling and shit. And being called like a fascist and this and that when you're just trying to comprehend. And in order to comprehend, you're going to have to break some... comprehend. In order to comprehend and to eat the omelet of knowledge, you're going to need to break those eggshells. And it's going to cause a bunch of problems and shit. You're going to have the courage to break that.
You don't think that they would have covered it at all if it was a woman crying? Maybe.
That shell. And in doing all that, because you're just trying to comprehend, you're being called all those kinds of names and stuff like that. I can understand. Sometimes, even in my own community, I can't. Sometimes I shut the fuck up. I shut up about, yeah, but guys, let's just think about, that person kind of has a point, because, oh my God, you Uncle Tom, you this and that. You can't even talk. You can't even have a discourse. And I understand why people don't let you talk. They're hurt, so they can't. It's all fucking trauma that's talking. At the same time that I understand that there's trauma, but I also understand that it's not working. You can't talk to someone like that. You cannot talk with someone that has trauma like that. Leave it alone. At some point you shut down. Or if you keep on talking because you're trying to do the right thing, it's gonna hurt you. Your big ass armor that you have is gonna lose its efficiency at some point. So I understand where he's from. I understand why he's crying.
They seem to really identify with this video, I guess. I guess that's why they're talking about it. They seem to like really, or at least, yeah, he identifies with it.
I understand all of that. We've lost this conversation. I don't even think that we ever had it, but we lost this conversation that we in the society. The key thing to understand each other in a conversation, not to prove a point or to win an argument, but just to understand each other. I can disagree with you and just still understand where you're coming from, and just that. But we're not there yet. That's what I think. What do you think?
Yeah, so I've never really cared for Jordan Peterson's like politics, but I've always enjoyed a lot of his like psychology related lectures and stuff. I watch like
he's a smarty pants, yeah.
A lot of those, and they're very interesting for me. He says something there that I thought was interesting when he posed the question of being the king of incels.
I thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice,
and it's weird.
I'm sorry, it just makes me giggle. I guess incels are marginalized, huh?
But
speak on it.
Even the title involuntary celibate, meaning like, I don't want this, but it is where I'm at. They really do feel helpless. Now, we can argue that it's of their own decisions. You can argue for some folks it's a choice or they're making bad decisions.
I don't know if I would say that incels are deciding to be incels. You know what I mean? It's probably a mixture of different things. I don't know if maybe they have daddy issues or something. Or something's going on. They're not super attractive to women in some capacity. Maybe they can't communicate very well. They probably spent a lot of their childhood inside playing video games, not really going outside, not really talking to women, stuff like that. They didn't learn that like you're gonna lose 95% of the time when it comes to like engaging with women. That's something you guys should keep in mind. Like it's like one of those things where you learn that you just get rejected. 19 out of 20 times you're gonna get rejected by a woman, like pretty much everybody. And you just have to be like, okay, you just learn that person's not into you, you move on. It's one of those things where like, especially in school, think about it in like high school. If you ask a girl out and she says no, you're done. Like for the rest of the school year and the rest of your school career until you're out of school, you're never gonna live that down. Oh my God, such and such asked such and such out and she said no. You know what I mean? So toxic. And this is like a lot of these incels are just like they still have like that high school mentality because they never really got social interaction outside of high school, and they still think that the world kind of treats them like that with like being bullied and shit. It's just like I think a lot of it has to do with like a lack of father figures, honestly. I'm not saying that all men are the problem. I mean, if you were born and you don't have a father, whether you're a boy or a girl, I mean, that's you're the victim in that scenario. But it's unfortunate how we do lack a lot of strong like father figures to teach you to like because I would say like hitting on a girl and getting rejected is that's something that like I don't know, probably a dad could teach you like, yeah, son, don't worry about it. You can
make a lot of those arguments, but I'm just telling you what they think.
Especially since like your first crush, you're like, oh, I love this fucking girl, and then like when they reject you. You feel like shit. Like I told a story before, so fucked up. I used to have a crush named Jen, And I never asked her out because I was so nervous. But I remember after I got out of high school, a few years later, this is when I was still in my beta years, I asked her, I was like, if I'd asked you out in high school, would you have gone out with me? She's like, yeah, I was probably desperate enough. It's like, God damn. That would have devastated me back in high school. Now I don't give a fuck because, like, it doesn't matter. You get older and you realize, like, it really doesn't matter. You know?
In their own head. They think they are a victim of circumstances. And whether you believe that or not, what is true is that they are suffering. Now, how they manifest that suffering, be it in terms of insane rhetoric against women or whatever it might be, that is not something we should accept. But there should be a certain level of sympathy for understanding that these are just tremendously lonely individuals.
I think that's where it becomes hard, though, right? So, like, if you're like, as an incel, I see a lot of incels. They tend to be a little bit more terminally online. They tend to be a bit racist, a bit sexist, a bit homophobic, a bit transphobic, a bit pretty much every type of phobic. They're grass phobic. They don't like going and touching grass. It's hard to be empathetic towards those people, I think. It can be very difficult to be empathetic towards those people because they're very angry. It's the same thing as like a woman, a feminist, like a hyper like leftist feminist, blue-haired, the typical, you know, the stereotype that just hates men. It's like I don't feel sympathy for them either, and none of us do, right? Like let's just say like the blue-haired feminist is the opposite end of the spectrum from like the incel, and it's like we don't feel bad for either of these people. It's not just, and it's like it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, you know, we don't like I understand there are struggles in life that make you like frustrated and it sucks. But then when you get so radical in some capacity, I don't respect you anymore. I don't care about you. I'm not trying to be rude, you know? And like that's the problem. Is like it's hard to be so empathetic towards like people who are incels because they're just as annoying as fucking like the blue-haired feminist, you know? They're just as fucking annoying, bro. Because like they're like, hey, we have a problem, which is true, and then they take that problem and they just go fucking ballistic with it. It's like, you know, women will be like, yeah, I have a problem with men. Like, okay, I totally understand that. So I hate them and they should all die. Okay, fuck you. And then there's men that's like, I have a problem with like women. Okay. And then they're like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot up school. You know what I mean? Like it's something that it's I know it's a little extreme where they'll be like, I fucking hate women. They shouldn't be playing video games. It's, you know, those are like your incel. It's hard to be super just like empathetic towards people like that. It's hard to truly be like, empathetic towards that, honestly.
Who are suffering. I don't look at women who are approaching the age of 40 crying because they can't find somebody and then think, well, good. I think that's incredibly sad. I think that's incredibly sad.
I wouldn't say that's the opposite end of an incel, but okay.
When you got these moms crying that they still need to lean on their parents in the ages of 40 because like they haven't made it, I don't think that's great. No, that's sad. And if people want to work with these people to help them make better choices or to help them understand these things better, I'm all for it. At the end of the day, irrespective of whether or not their decisions got them to where they're at or not, what is true, okay, is for what's good for a society as a whole, if we can change people's mindset to some degree, if we can make people make better choices in life, that's good for everyone. Because guess what? Disaffected, lonely people are not good for society as a whole. Because
I guess that's an interesting point. So someone in the chat said men can be emotional. No one cares. No one's clowning on him because his grandma died. He's crying over nothing out of nowhere like a weirdo. I don't know if he's crying over nothing like out of nowhere. I don't know if I agree with that. But in the online narrative, I think people, if like you see like a man crying about like a loved one or something, if that was why Jordan was crying, I don't think anybody would be dunking on him. It's probably more to do with the fact that I don't quite understand why he's getting so emotional over this topic. But like I understand that like that's a counter to the argument of like, oh, I thought people in society told us to express our emotions more. Now that he's expressing his emotion, they're shitting on him. But like for me personally, you know, I feel like, and I'd love to know why he got so emotional, but I feel like it was a little bit too much of a response, you know? I think that it's perfectly reasonable for men to cry sometimes, but I mean, I'm a little regressive in the idea where I don't think that there are a lot of instances where it's appropriate for men to cry. You know what I mean? And I've had my, you know, I've gotten teary-eyed and whatnot. To me, I just don't get it. It seemed like a little bit of a disproportionate response. But if it was like his mom or his daughter or something died, or, you know, maybe his dog. Sad when your dog dies, bro. I guess I'd be a little more empathetic to it, and I don't understand.
Those are the people that you can radicalize. Those are the people that you can turn violent, okay? People ask me like why Jordan Peterson became popular, and it was really that one line. It's not the emotion,
it's the subject. Yeah, I get that. I just don't understand why.
Everyone started repeating everywhere. Remember that line? Clean your room.
Clean your room. Clean your room before you try to change the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
And why did men gravitate towards that message so much?
Because there's a lot of motherfuckers that are going to point out the fingers while 3 fingers are pointing back at them.
It's because a lot of men need to be told to take responsibility for their lives. People ask me like prescriptively, what would you tell young men to do today? Should they go to college? Should they start their own business? I'm like, take some responsibility in life. Move out, get your own apartment, start paying your own bills, get a job, start taking care of your community service, start doing shit. Take on responsibility. Men need to hear that because more and more men are checking out.
Well, that seems like a weird answer to the question.
Prescriptively, what would you tell young men to do today? Should they go to college? Should they start their own business? I'm like, take some responsibility in life.
Well, that's what they're asking you. Is like, should they go to what should they do career path wise? And you're, I would have responded with like, oh, well, you know, if you know what you want to do and you have passion in it, go do that. If you don't know what you want to do, it might be a really good idea to go and try to get like a trade job, because those will last a long time and they won't be displaced by technology anytime soon, and then build from there. Yeah. I just feel that's just like a weird answer to the question. Like, oh, hey, what should I do in life? Oh, take some responsibility. It's like, okay, that's what's the tool to take responsibility though? You know? I think that's, but okay. All right.
More and more. Checking out schools, checking out diplomas, checking out the dating market, and taking care of your community service. Start doing shit. Take on responsibility. Men need to hear that because more and more men are checking out. More and more. Checking out schools, checking out diplomas, checking out the dating market, and promise you this, in 20 years, you're going to see those big effects. I think the polarization will continue. And I think those who claim to be for the disenfranchised aren't willing to admit that young men are the disenfranchised in a lot of ways, and they don't care to.
Yeah, it's probably true. Jordan Peterson's been getting hate for quite a while, so it's probably really getting to him. I get that.
Just the other day, when he talked to me, she was like, you know what I just learned recently? I was like, what? She's like, apparently dudes kill themselves a lot. I was like, yeah, we do it way more after.
Recently,
this happened last week, this conversation. So they don't know. Most of them don't care. And they pretend they do because it's the right thing to say from a PR standpoint. None of their policies, none of the stuff that they support, or even the rhetoric online indicates that. The amount of women who say like, oh yeah, I care. Men are trash right afterwards. Oh yes, best believe I heard of that. Yeah. Oh, I care about men. Then why is it that the pinned post on your Twitter page is men are trash?
Well, it's probably because they've been wronged by men in the past. Like same reason why some men are like women are trash because they've been wronged by women. I feel like this is a little too like, I don't know, dude. Like, I get it. There are some issues. I totally get it. But I feel like this is, like, leaning into it way too much. I mean, like, there's an issue with a lot of different groups of people being disenfranchised in some capacity. I don't think 20 years from now, society's going to fucking collapse because we didn't care enough about men. I feel like a little bit of an exaggerated video here. It's leaning a little too much into that for me.
And it's fine. It's fine. And it's actually fine that you don't care about everything. It's fine. It's fine because, boo-boo, you got your own shit to worry about. But if you got your own shit up to worry about and it's fine that you don't care, let other people care. And that's the reason why there's some things like that happening. Because some of y'all really don't care. The problem is that some of y'all don't care and claim that you do when you really don't.
I also think that the term incel, like, I don't even know if people know what it means. Because I've been called an incel. I'm like, bitch, how am I an incel when I'm inside a bitch right now?
We've been called everything. So
well, you think that women's standards are too high.
That don't mean that. Well, I told you that already. Yeah. The minute there's a word, that shit is like the new invention since paprika. They fucking sprinkled that shit like it was some Jamaican seasoning. Like they just sprinkled that new word. You're that. We've been called everything in the same sentence. Opposites. Yeah.
Anything else?
Okay. Nah. All right. Well, I guess Jordan crying was something that really impacted them too. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and another special shout out to all my Patreon and Twitch subs. If you'd like to support this channel further than you already have by just watching the video alone, go down to the links below where you can sub on my Patreon, which will allow you to get your name on this beautiful black wall. Or you can go to the Twitch page and you can actually use a free Amazon Prime sub, if you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.